Hello, hello, hello. Wait. Hello, hello, hello. This is Warren Redlick. Uh, why don't I see myself? There we go. Hello, hello, hello. Uh, I don't know. Sometimes I don't see myself. It always starts weird. So first of all, obviously great news. Tesla stock is up dramatically. Tesla did its Q3 earnings call. They did their Q3 slide deck. There was a whole bunch of information there. I'm going to go through everything. I want to focus generally on what's good long term, and what's good long term is FSD is looking great. Uh, Robotaxi is Cybercab is looking great. There's a lot of great things. Tesla Energy, I think, was the big news. The long-term view for Megapack energy storage. That long-term view is probably the biggest takeaway from this. But I'm going to dive into everything, and I just, good start for the last couple of days to see stock up this much. I want to caution people. We've seen this number go up and down. Tesla stock is a roller coaster ride. It's up to 260, 270 now. It could go back to 200. It could go back to 150. Who knows? The stock market is very unpredictable. My current concern, my major concern, and it's declining, is if the presidential election goes the wrong way. I'm not going to dive into politics, but I believe one of the candidates is a significant risk of arresting Elon, and that would tremendously damage the company and the stock. That's not why. I mean, that I'm not worried about the stock when I decided how I vote, but I think that if you're concerned, what is the biggest threat to Tesla in the short to medium term? It's politics, government. Regardless of whether you're talking about the United States or other countries, government is always the greatest threat to Tesla, to progress in general. So that's my general take on things. What's going on here? Okay, that's the wrong one. Okay, why is that? I got things out of order. So here's Tesla's summary. I'm going to go through that quickly. 7 millionth vehicle produced. Okay, that's nice. Preparations for new vehicles remain underway, including more affordable models. Again, that language, including more affordable models, suggests there will be some less affordable models. And I'm gonna hit this. I don't want to forget this point. I'm gonna hit this point. This is my prediction. This is my prediction for what's coming. There will be a smaller Model Y. There will be the current Model Y that will be updated, some sort of refresh to make it more like the Model 3, but I think there's bigger changes coming, and there will be an extended Model Y. I think what we're seeing globally is demand for SUVs outstrips anything else. Demand for sedans is down. So if you were going to make a vehicle, then you would make a new vehicle, you would probably go for an SUV. Pickup truck, big in the US, big in Thailand, but not that big anywhere else in the world. Sedans, demand is down a little bit. So I think my prediction is, given the success of Model Y, making a shorter Model Y and a longer Model Y makes a lot of sense. A shorter Model Y, and I specifically broke down the numbers. The Model Y has 2,100 liters of cargo space. The BYD Atto 3 is the top-selling vehicle in Thailand, the top-selling EV in Thailand, and one of the best-selling EVs in the world outside of Tesla. And it has 1,300 liters of cargo space. It's a small SUV. So I think if Tesla made a significantly smaller Model Y with 1,500 liters of cargo space instead of 2,100, that would still be larger than a BYD Atto 3. You would expect production costs to be significantly less, and that would compete effectively without really taking a lot of market share from Model Y. It would be competing with other vehicles more than it would be competing with the Model Y. And then an extended Model Y, 30 centimeters, 1 foot longer, maybe a little bit more than that, would be able to give you 2,600 liters. I'm making up numbers now, but 2,600 liters of cargo space, and give you a genuine third row, which when you're not in the United States, you don't see it. I think you do see it in the United States, the desire for that legit third row. It's a bigger issue in other places as well. So that's very valuable. And that, you'd say, well, you're going to Osborne Model X, but Model X is not selling in any significant volume. So I don't see any downside to taking what we already know is a great platform, making some relatively moderate variation on that platform, and really ramping production. And I think the extended Model Y could sell 500,000 a year globally. And the shorter Model Y probably sells 1 million a year globally. And that would get you to the 3 million or so a year that Tesla has been talking about it. I don't think it's Model 3. I just don't think sedans sell in that volume. Like, if you're picking a market where you're going to focus, Andy in the chat says Model 3 is the sub 30K car. My personal opinion is that sedans are just not in the same level of demand. If you're trying to hit the market where the market wants vehicles, SUVs are just in more demand. It's just the way the world has changed. It's why the Lucid Motors made the wrong call with the sedan. They should have gone with an SUV first. You know, it's easy to say that now. When Peter Rawlinson was making that decision, I don't know, 8 years ago, probably wasn't as obvious then. So anyway, let me get back to Tesla's update. Not that one, this one. Record gross margin for Tesla Energy, it was 30%. Now, Vaibhav in his remarks cautioned that margins will fluctuate, and there were some specific things that led to margins being 30%. So I would guess, based on what he said, that margins for energy will dip below 30% next quarter, but we'll see. He did also say, I don't see it here, he did also say, and I'll hit it again later, that he expects sequential improvement in energy storage deployed. Energy storage deployed was 6.9 gigawatt hours this quarter. It was around 9 the previous quarter. Sorry, it was 6.9 the last quarter. This quarter, 6.9. It was 9 the previous quarter. So I think we're looking at obviously over 7 gigawatt hours deployed next quarter. I don't think we're going to get to 9, but we'll see. But long term, Tesla is trending very positive on Megapack, and that's going to be a big part. Let me just hit that now. Megapack is huge. So Elon said Tesla will soon scale to 100 gigawatt hours per year of Megapack. Okay, they're at 40 now in Lathrop. They're going to start ramping. Megafactory China starts in Q1, and he seemed to say it's going to hit 20 gigawatt hours right away. That seems unlikely, but by the end of the year, it may ramp to 40 gigawatt hours because China ramps fast. China moves fast. So you'll have 80 gigawatt hours, and not long after that, you'll have 100 gigawatt hours. They'll probably squeak a little more out of Lathrop and maybe squeak some more out of China, and you'll get to, and maybe there'll be future megafactories coming soon. But he said they expect to scale to multiple terawatt hours per year. And I just want to hit, if you do 1 terawatt hour per year and you get $200,000 per kilowatt hour, for those who follow me, or $200,000 per megawatt hour, $200 a kilowatt hour. In the past, I talked about a battery revenue model, and I used a number of $500 a kilowatt hour, which I think Tesla is still above that with its vehicles. But with Megapack, that number has been falling, and Megapack will ultimately be a higher amount of the batteries. But even with $200 a kilowatt hour, which is way below what I talked about before, if you do a terawatt hour, that's $200 billion in revenue. And for context, Tesla's revenue last year was $93 billion. So Tesla Energy in 5 years will be bigger than Tesla is today. Tesla Energy alone in 5 years will be bigger than Tesla is today. And there will be a lot more Tesla. So you're looking at basically a 2 or 3x in Tesla. With just energy growth, you're looking at a 3x in Tesla. So this is a massive growth company, and I'm wearing the Tesla is the next Tesla t-shirt. I'll be talking about that a little bit, but if you're looking for where to invest to get a 10x, you know, Tesla had a 10x from 2019 into 2020. Where can I get a 10x? And like, I think NVIDIA is a great company, and maybe I could see a 3x or a 4x in NVIDIA. I don't really have a good sense of how much could NVIDIA go up, but I have a really good sense of how much Tesla could go up. And I think a 10x is just the beginning. So I think Tesla's 10x, maybe even 50x or 100x in the next 5-10 years. So Tesla is the next Tesla. T-shirts at elonbits.com. So let's go back. Cost of goods sold per vehicle came down to lowest level ever. They're gradually improving their manufacturing cost. This is pretty interesting because Cybertruck is growing, and Cybertruck is a high-cost vehicle. But they're getting their cost down so much in Model 3 and Model Y, which are the volume vehicles, that they're getting cost of goods sold down, and that enables them to eventually lower the pricing. Refresh Model 3 ramp continued successfully. They didn't call it Highland, strangely. Cybertruck production increased sequentially, achieved positive gross margin for the first time. This doesn't mean it's profitable, it's positive gross margin. So net, it's probably still negative, but positive gross margin, and Cybertruck will continue to ramp and grow. This is very good, though, because I was concerned about the cost of manufacturing Cybertruck, and it appears they've already dialed in the cost of manufacturing Cybertruck and gotten it down, and they will continue to get it down. And as they ramp volume, the cost will go down more, and Cybertruck will be a very profitable vehicle. Preparation of the semi-factory continues. I think I'm going to cover that later. Build scheduled to start by the end of 2025. I think that's pilot. I think they expect to start ramping, and they said this in 2026, and maybe be fully ramped by the end of 2026. They may be improving their ability to ramp quickly. They usually say they're going to ramp in 18 months. Sounds like they might ramp in 12 months. Giga Shanghai produced its 3 millionth car, exported its 1 millionth car. Okay. Model Y best-selling vehicle of any type in Sweden, Netherlands, Denmark, and Switzerland. I mean, Model Y is the best-selling car in the world, so. AI hardware released FSD supervised 2.12.5, bringing improved safety and comfort thanks to a 5x increase in number of parameters. I believe they said, and I have this in my notes, which I'll cover later, that 12.5 is 3x better in interventions per miles per critical intervention. So it's taking longer and longer to have a critical intervention. It's 3x better. And then version 13 is coming soon, and that will be 6x better than 12.5. That was an open question. Were they saying that it was going to be better than the beginning of the year? And I think they said, I'll cover this in my notes. I think it's something like 3 orders of magnitude from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, 1,000x improvement in FSD from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, and they expect similar improvement next year. Big stuff happening with that. Released Actually Smart Summon, deployed FSD, supervised the Cybertruck, and then driving on highways for the first time. Compute rules everything around us. Already training on a 29,000 H100 cluster Giga Texas, expecting to have 50,000 H100 capacity by the end of October. That's only 6 days away. So they are really ramping. And Elon said we're not training compute constrained. I'll talk about that. Some stuff about software. Powertrain unveiled Cybercab and Robotaxi. We saw that. Cybercab will be built on next-gen platform. In the call, there's this ongoing back and forth. Is the next generation vehicle going to have a manually driven version and a version without steering wheel and pedals? In the biography, Walter Isaacson said that they had persuaded Elon to make a steering wheel version. It appears that they are now not making the steering wheel version, that they're only going to make a version without a steering wheel and pedals. They said new powertrain with an estimated 5.5 miles per kilowatt hour. I'm personally disappointed in that. I was hoping they were going to go for 6 miles a kilowatt hour, but maybe by 2026 they will get there. I thought the May vehicle, like my little nitpicks on Cybercab, I thought Cybercab should have been a little narrower, a little lighter weight, a little shorter, so that you could just squeeze a little bit more efficiency out of it, get the cost per mile down a little bit lower. But I think that they have good reasons for doing what they did, and they're smarter than me, so they know what they're doing. 100 millionth 4680 cell, continue to progress our dry cathode manufacturing line. So Elon talked about 4680 is getting, will soon be the most cost-effective cell, the most competitive cell in the United States. They import cells from other places. There's tariffs. There's other things. When you take everything into account, 4680 will be their most cost-competitive cell, their most competitive cell that they use in the United States, not in China. Mega factory in Lathrop, 200 megapacks a week, 40 gigawatt hour run rate. Powerwall deployments reached a record for the second quarter. I don't have a feel for how big Powerwall is relative to Megapack. I think Powerwall is relatively small relative to Megapack, but I'm not sure. I don't really know the answer to that question. Okay, my own notes. This is from the call. Only Tesla cars have ASS. That's true. Although Ferraris look pretty good. Yes, Megapack and Semi have unlimited. Let me talk about this. Martin Cahill says this. Megapack and Semi have unlimited demand. Megapack. I'm trying to wrap my head around this point. When you look at a business perspective, you're going to buy a Megapack. Why are you buying a Megapack? Because it saves you money. How does it save you money? Because you charge it when rates are low, and you discharge it. You use the energy in the Megapack when rates are high. You're time shifting. And also, you may have solar, and you're storing solar during the day, and you're using it at night, and that saves you from paying grid prices, either way. That value is probably rising. The difference between peak and off-peak is probably rising. It has historically, I think, risen. And then the cost of energy has risen. The cost of grid energy has risen. So if you deploy solar, you're saving money. If you use Megapack so that you can use more solar and spread your solar out over the course of time, then you're saving more money versus the grid. So the savings, the value of Megapack probably grows over time. I don't mean, so in other words, your Megapack saves you more money in 3 years than it does this year. And when you're making the decision 3 years from now, should I buy a Megapack? The value side of it is better in 3 years than it is today. And the cost is declining. So it's already makes sense for many businesses to buy Megapack. But as you you lower the price of Megapack slowly, which has improved a lot, and as the value increases, the demand for Megapack just becomes, it's not infinite, but it's effectively infinite because you can't make enough Megapacks. So I think that's Andy Onion says you have to be a prodigious energy user for Megapacks to be useful. Well, if you're a utility, if you are a Walmart, a super Walmart, if you are an office building, you're an industrial user, you're a warehouse user, a lot of these uses use a lot of electricity, and there's a lot of them. Globally, there's just a tremendous number of users like that. And then if you're a solar farm, there's so many options like that. So I think that the mega pack value, like you have to realize, well, what's the size of the global economy? What's the size of global energy use? You know, 100 gigawatt hours of megapacks is trivial compared to that. So that the demand, and probably 500 gigawatt hours of megapacks is trivial compared to that. So getting to it, even at a terawatt hour, is probably not enough to make a difference. You still need it. So, and as solar gets cheaper and cheaper to generate electricity, it becomes compelling that you want to store the electricity so you can use it at night. So, Cybercab, Elon, so they projected more affordable models, first half of 2025. And remember, they said in the notes, including more affordable models, which to me means also including less affordable models, extended Model Y, my prediction. Elon forecasts 20 to 30% vehicle growth in 2025. If we're doing close to 2 million vehicles this year, that means another 400,000 to 600,000 vehicles next year. So call it an extra 500,000 vehicles on 1.9 million vehicles. You got 2.4, 2.5 million vehicles next year. I'm not too concerned about whether they do 2.3 million vehicles next year, 2.7 million vehicles next year. I'm much more concerned about FSD, Robotaxi, and Optimus. That's the real future, and Megapack, frankly. Will Nurse asks, why mass-produce semi with steering wheels and pedals, or does that change? It's probably not that hard to take them out when the time comes, but when you look at the cost of a semi, the cost of the steering wheel and pedals is probably small. And I think it's going to be a while before you've dialed in FSD to be able to go unsupervised on semi. That's probably a few years away. So you're going to be making semis before you're ready for full FSD unsupervised on semi. And you probably need a guy in the vehicle anyway, because when you get to your destination or when you're charging, you need somebody to manage the thing. The cost of the driver and the scale of all the costs of the vehicle is probably less than the cost relative to what you're doing on a semi is a lot less than the cost of the driver in a Uber or Lyft or cab or a Grab. So you're saving a lot more proportionately on a regular car driving one person around than you are driving 60 tons of cargo around. Cybercab volume production. It sounded like Elon was saying they're going for a run rate of 2 million a year in 2026. It may be that they think they can ramp Cybercab really fast. I mean, I think they have the manufacturing line, if we can call it a line, laid out already in Texas, and I think they've been working on it and dialing it in. It was really amazing that they had 20, large apartment complexes too. Thank you, Mark. Large apartment complexes could use Megapack also. Large condo buildings, etc. I'm in a very large condo building here. There's got to be between these two buildings. There's got to be more than 1,000 units. So yeah, huge. So I think that they have a much better sense of how to ramp Cybercab than they did other vehicles, and their ramp may be faster. And he mentioned more than one factory, so we know they're going to build it in Texas. My guess is they're going to be building it in China, and whether they're going to build out Mexico, how fast they're going to build out Mexico, we don't know. And is there somewhere else? We don't know. 4680 approaching the most competitive cell, and I think I'm going to come to this. 4680 approaching the most competitive cell in the United States. I talked about that already. They did not mention lithium iron phosphate. I've been wondering, is Tesla going to make lithium iron phosphate in the United States? Are they going to be sourcing lithium iron phosphate from a supplier in the United States? So far, I haven't heard anything about that. Lithium iron phosphate, for those who aren't familiar, is a less expensive on a dollars per kilowatt hour. It is the common battery in the standard range Model 3 and Model Y. It is expected to be maybe the common battery in the Cybercab because it's lower cost. But maybe if 4680 is less expensive in the US, then they'll use 4680 in the US. They said it would be able to handle whatever battery chemistry. I think I talked about this. FSD 12.5, 3x better in miles per intervention. V13 will be 5 to 6x better than 12.5. As a year on the year as a whole, this is Ashok talking, I think. We expect at least 3 orders of magnitude improvement or 1,000x better. That's 3 nines in the March of nines. And that trend will continue next year. So they forecast that safer than human in terms of miles per critical intervention, Q2 2025, and Elon said maybe Q3. And Ashok is on board. It's one thing when Elon makes a projection. It's another thing when the team says it. When the other people on the team are saying the same thing. And it's Ashok saying it and Elon relying on Ashok, not Elon making stuff up. Also, ASS, actually Smart Summon, is currently speed limited. They expect to remove that. And there's been 1 million uses of actually Smart Summon so far. That's pretty cool. And this was one of the biggest pieces of news the total surprise to me. They are already operating a ride-hailing service for Tesla employees with FSD, with a development app. The app on the phone is already in use by employees, and there's a safety driver in the vehicle. So they are already testing a Robotaxi network in the Bay Area of California with employees. I did not know this. I don't know if anybody knew this. This was a big surprise to me. So if I was a shareholder in Uber, I would be selling right now. I mean, like Tesla has just basically said, we've already built competitive software. We are already operating a pilot service. They're going to displace Uber and Lyft and maybe Grab in Asia. It'll be harder in Asia to displace Grab. That's a long conversation. Human drivers are cheap here. California, he talked before at the We Robot event about deploying the Robotaxi network unsupervised in California and Texas in 2026 or 2025. Sorry. Elon said that California has a long regulatory approval process, so they hope to have it operating by the end of the year. Texas is a lot faster, so he's much more confident that it'll be operating in Texas before the end of the year, and maybe even some other states by the end of next year. And I think when you're looking at when is Tesla's share price going to unlock, I would expect that when they start operating a Robotaxi service somewhere in the world, which it looks like it'll be Texas first, at some point, Wall Street has to say, oh, well, we can model that now. Well, what's the revenue for this going to be? What's the cost going to be? What's the profit of this going to be? And they're going to see it. And so I think that I know I have some calls for December 2025 at like $550 a share. So I'm holding those babies. I think this may actually happen. We may see the stock go up beyond 550 by the end of next year. Like we're at what are we at now? What's the stock price now? I got to check that. Stock price is at 267, so we're up 3% today. We're not at 270 yet, but we're in that ballpark. So we could see the stock 2x from today by the end of next year. It's just when does Wall Street see the things it needs to see to unlock the value? Does Megapack unlock? Do they start to get Megapack, and does that unlock the value? Do they start? But really, it's FSD, Robotaxi, and Optimus. And when the Robotaxi service starts operating and really working, and they see there's 1,000 Robotaxis in Texas that are taking customers places, at some point you got to do the math and you say, oh my God, that you start to do the math that I've done this math for you guys many times. Well, what's that going to be with 10 million Robotaxis? Oh, okay. 10 million Robotaxis, that's $500 billion a year in gross profit. And oh, they had $20 billion in gross profit last year. That's a 25x. I'd probably ought to 2 or 3x the stock, if not 5 or 10x the stock. 144 asks, why sell Cybercab if it's truly to be profitable for themselves? I do not understand the answer to that. Like if I had a question in an earnings call, it would be, why would you sell cars anymore once you have Robotaxi? What's the business model? Why would it make sense to sell cars to other people for $30,000 when in your hands it generates $500,000 in revenue or $1 million in revenue? Why would you sell to somebody for $30,000? I would be asking that question. I would love to see an answer to that question. I don't think they're going to answer that question right now because Elon has said in the past, we're going to stop selling cars. So I think he's being coy. And there may be other plans. They may have other ideas. There may be fleet buyers who are going to pay a lot. I think it's going to be hard to buy a Cybercab. Once the Robotaxi network is up and running, I don't know why they would sell it to you for $30,000. Let's see. They're expanding AI training capacity, but they're not training compute constrained. It's getting so good it becomes hard. This is the limit that Tesla is facing now. It's getting so good that it's hard to find mistakes And then when you find mistakes and then you rerun different models on different cars and you try to figure out, well, which one's better? Well, if they're both really good, it takes a lot of miles to figure out which one's better. So fortunately, they have a fleet of 7 million or so vehicles operating, and they're able to test the models on different vehicles. And, there's hundreds of thousands of vehicles, maybe 1 million vehicles now with FSD. So they're able to test it and they have enough volume that they can see over, not that long. They can run 100,000 mile test or 500,000 mile test on a few cars, and they start to figure out which one's better. But it's hard. It gets harder. And this is why, like, the idea that somebody's going to come along and compete. Well, how are you going to do in this March of Nines? Where are you going to get the volume to be able to do this? Elon talked about the next generation Optimus hand, double the degrees of freedom, better tactile sensing. Talked about Tesla's advantage, which he said before. They have real world AI. Nobody else has real world AI, and they have the ability to scale the volume production. Nobody else has that. You can do your video demo, your cute video demo, but Tesla had 20 robots walking among people. It wasn't just a staged video demo. It was staged, but it wasn't just a video demo. It was a much less predictable environment. It wasn't just for a camera. It was for random people all over the place. I think I mentioned this. Lathrop, 200 megapacks a week is 40 gigawatt hour run rate. Shanghai should reach 20 gigawatt hour run rate in Q1. That seemed awfully optimistic, but we'll see. And then ramp. That would get to 40 gigawatt hours. And so you should be at 80 gigawatt hours a year by the end of the year, and maybe 100 gigawatt hours a year not long after that. Does that mean there's another factory coming? Does that mean they expect to squeeze more than 40 gigawatt hours out of each mega factory? I don't know. And ultimately, multiple terawatt hours a year. I already covered that. Elon focused. Tesla is an energy, transport, robotics, and AI company. He usually says an AI and robotics company. Now he's energy, transport, robotics, and AI. Energy is scaling to, a $200 billion plus revenue company and then beyond. And transport, Robotaxi is, multi-trillion-dollar a year company. Robotics is trillions. It's amazing. If we execute, Tesla will become the most valuable company in the world by a long shot. Well, I think the most valuable company in the world is $3 trillion, and NVIDIA will probably go to $5 or $6 trillion. I think Elon sees Tesla as a $10 trillion market cap company, so that's a 10x. That's a more than 10x, and I think we're much bigger than that. Vibehop talked. Vibehop is the CFO. Said energy, or maybe he's master of coin. I'm not sure where they have his title. Energy deployment will grow sequentially. So you had 6.9 gigawatt hours of energy deployed in this quarter. So growing sequentially means we'll be over 7. I don't think we're going to reach 9 like we did in Q2. Next year, we should start seeing 10 gigawatt hours a quarter, if not more. And part of it is that they deploy, but they don't recognize deployment under certain contracts. And there's some amount of, I looked at the SEC filing, and there's some amount of revenue that they don't recognize yet, or deployment that they don't recognize yet. There's contractual way that they figure that out. But, if Lathrop is doing 40 gigawatt hours a year run rate, then they should be doing 10 gigawatt hours a quarter effectively. Energy margins 30%, but will fluctuate. So I expect energy margins will drop a little bit next quarter based on what he said. The CapEx for the year will exceed $11 billion for this year, up from the $10 billion they had talked about before. Cybercab manufacturing. This is a big deal. Elon really talked about this. He expects Cybercab manufacturing line, we can call it a line because it's a little different than a line, to be 5x faster volume, 5x higher volume than other car manufacturing lines. That's crazy. That's crazy stuff. They talked about Tesla service, the service centers. It's an advantage that Tesla services their own cars as opposed to having dealerships which have alternate incentives. So that's an advantage for Tesla. On the one hand, they're more motivated to do good service. And on the other hand, the service provides great feedback for making the cars better. And they're building bigger, so they're growing the service centers, and that allows them to have different lanes for different types of service that makes service better for customers. And they're able to specialize, and somebody can do, there's certain things that are more difficult, and you can have somebody who specializes in that if you have enough volume in a service center to do that. If everybody has to be trained on everything, then nobody's an expert in anything. Semi-production will start first half of 2026, ramp to full. I don't know if he meant 50,000 a year by the end of 2026 or 50,000 a year in 2027, but they will be ramping semi. They are training FSD on semi, but it's only a low volume with only 200 units, so there's only so much training you can do. But they do hope to deploy FSD on semi at some point, and that will make it better for drivers. It'll, reduce driver strain. Hardware 3 might not reach unsupervised, and if not, This is the first time Elon has said this. They will upgrade hardware 3 cars if necessary, and the cars are designed to be upgradable, so they will be able to switch out the computer. That's news. That's big news for a lot of people. I think that's everything. Yeah, I think we covered everything. So let me look at the chat. We got a half hour to go. This is great. FSD is going to become a lot more expensive when rideshare becomes a reality. Yes, I think that the vehicles, like not just that FSD will be more expensive, but you wouldn't sell a car without FSD. Once FSD works, Tesla's not going to sell a car without it. It's not going to be an option anymore. If you're an OEM that can't make a profit, it makes sense to buy the price. So there's a theory that Tesla's going to build factories for cars and then franchise them. I don't think so. I mean, we don't know the business model. It's an interesting question. Like, what is the business model going forward? How do you accelerate the transition to sustainable energy, make the road safer by having more cars be self-driving and that are safer than human, maximize profit for your shareholders, or at least close to maximize profit, work in the interest of your shareholders. There's a lot of issues there. They will sell Cybercab. They will sell Cybercab because they won't have to manage the business. Someone else will, and they can take profit from using the network. So this is a theory. I've heard people say this. Well, they'll sell the Cybercabs to other people and they'll just take a share. Okay, but if you hold the vehicle and you take all the revenue, and I would say gross profit per vehicle in the short to medium term is $50 billion, if it's $50,000 a car. If you hold the car and you have a fleet of 10 million cars, you're making $500 billion a year in gross profit. That's a lot of money. If you sell the cars to other people and you get, you're going to give the owner 70% revenue, right? You've got to incentivize the owner of the vehicle to put it in the network. So you have to give them a large share of the revenue. Well, now you're only getting 30% of the revenue, and the cost is not that high. And Tesla would have economies of scale in operating a large robotaxi network. So I think I could see them selling to some fleet buyers. I think there might be an antitrust concern that if they own all the cars and they own the whole fleet, then somebody says they're a monopoly and they have problems with governments. I think there might be some arguments for it, but we'll have to see what they say. I'm waiting for them to explain that. Mark Sparks says they won't displace Uber. In fact, Uber stock is likely to climb because Uber will switch to the FSD Teslas as soon as they can. But this is not Uber's business. Uber doesn't own cars. It's not their business. They contract with car owners to operate in their network, and Tesla is bypassing the Uber network. Now, I have suggested Tesla would buy Lyft, and it's an easy way to acquire customers and maybe some valuable data. Uber is a $150 billion market cap. Lyft is a $5 billion market cap. You can acquire Lyft and get like tremendously valuable data and tremendously valuable customer data. And you open up your Lyft app and your first choice is a Tesla Robotaxi. Like, it's an easy way to grow your customer base for your Robotaxi network. And it's cheap. Lyft is $5 billion. You probably buy it for $8 billion. And maybe Lyft goes down to near zero and you can pick it up for less money. So I don't see why. I don't see a rationale for keeping Uber around. I could see like Hertz. I could see rental car companies being good at managing fleets because they already have the ability to clean cars and service cars and manage buying fleets and selling fleets. They do a lot of that. Uber doesn't do that. Uber is just a software network to connect owners, drivers to riders, and Tesla's network already does that. So I don't see what Uber adds to that. Can we get Tesla insurance in Cybercab in Florida, please? So, I don't know what happened with Tesla insurance in Florida. I'm disappointed in it, but the practical reality is, you were going to get Cybercab in Florida. I think the Robotaxi network will operate in Florida probably early 2027, if not late 2026. Sorry, no, late 2025 or early 2026. I think we'll see it in Florida. Once you have Robotaxi network running, there's not much point in having an insurance for cars that people own, because your business is going to be focused on running a Robotaxi network, and selling cars to people is going to become less important. I don't know what happened in Florida. I think it may have been just too hard to sell insurance for some reason. We never got an answer to that question. I'm not buying a China-made Model Y. I don't know why you wouldn't buy a China-made Model Y. Maybe there's a conversation here I missed. So Mark Plot says that there's a lot of theories here. Mark says Juniper already in pilot production in China. There's rumors about this. We don't know this. I think it's on screen right here that James Catt said refresh Model Y in Q1 2025. They haven't said that. They said new vehicles first half of 2025 and newer models, more affordable models. I don't know why people are so insistent that Tesla's. I mean, I think they might. It makes sense to refresh the Model Y to make it comparable to Model 3. I do think there's a chance that they will go 48 volt on whatever they do with new vehicles in the first half of 2025. They might go steer by wire with new vehicles in the first half of 2025. So you might see Model Y not just refreshed like Model 3, but refreshed and add features like 48 volt wiring and steer by wire. But I think that's, it's the best selling car in the world. How important is a refresh to the best selling car in the world? I don't know why people think this is such a big deal. Not saying it's not going to happen, just like, is that like, and it's already an amazing car. Like, why wouldn't you want to buy it now? What am I missing? Thank you, Clutus. C-Lut is your god. Thank you. Who is hotter right now, Tesla or Warren's fiance? She's not my fiance. She's my wife. I married her a month and a half ago. Legally married. We have a wedding coming up, maybe in a little more than a month. We don't have a definite date on that yet. Peter and Will Anderson says the more affordable models will be lower trims if they're made on the same manufacturing line. It will not be smaller. To add to it, people don't want a smaller car. You are thinking America. You are not thinking the rest of the world. Europe and Asia want a smaller car. And it definitely sounds like it's more than just lower trims. They are talking about taking $5,000 out of the cost of the car. That's not just a lower trim. They are doing something else beyond that. Tesla NOs, yes. Okay, let's see. Do I think there will be specifics on Tesla retrofitting AI3 for first? So it's not AI3, it's hardware 3 and then AI4, AI5. Do I think there will be specifics on Tesla retrofitting AI3? If I buy a used AI3 model the day before, would they still qualify? I believe you have to be an existing FSD customer, and I'm sure there will be some requirement and some people will game the system. The reality is that Tesla is going to want the car to be self-driving because they're going to want you to put it in the Robotaxi fleet so Tesla makes money on it. I don't know how much they're going to care about that. Lower range, cheaper seats, no rear screen, etc. I don't know why they put the rear screen in the first place. I don't. How many people are using that? I think they put the rear screen in because they figure people are going to be using the screen as entertainment. I don't know. Maybe it's just really cheap to do that. Cheaper seats, I don't see that. I think it's they have to make it in order to save $5,000 a car. They have to make it physically smaller. Mika says Tesla $2,900 a share in 2030. I think that's pessimistic. I see a 10x easy. That's 200. That's 2,700. I mean, 10x. Once the Robotaxi network is running, the game just changes. And my wife is hotter than Tesla, by the way. Tesla's hot. My wife is hotter. Whether they sell or not, they have all the liability, so why sell in the first place? That's true. Tesla's liable for the accident, whether they own the car or not. How hard would it be for Elon's comment to maybe nationalize FSD regulation if Doge Trump wins to happen? I think it would require congressional commitment, and I don't think it's likely to happen. I just think that's not a priority for the Trump administration. It's not a priority for a lot of people. Could they make it happen? Maybe. It would smooth. The reality is that self-driving is going to happen, and states will fall in line once it happens. Once Robotaxi is operating in Orlando, Florida, and Las Vegas, Nevada, and lots of local government officials fly to conventions in these places, and they experience Robotaxi, they're going to want it for themselves. They don't care about their own constituents. They care about themselves. And when they fly home and they get to their home airport and they take a taxi home, they're like, "This sucks. I want a Robotaxi here," and they're going to get Robotaxis everywhere. Any progress on your mini low occupancy vehicle? Have you dropped this idea after leaving the U.S.? No, the idea has gotten stronger after I left the U.S. I've been caught up with personal issues like getting married, planning what we're doing next year. Let me just hit a personal note here. We are probably going to, nomadic life. We're currently in Bangkok, but we are about to go on a trip to Hong Kong and Japan, so that my video production will be limited in the early November. First half of November, I'll be traveling. So we're gonna hit Hong Kong and Japan, and then probably April of next year we're gonna visit. This is visa subject to visa approval and other things, but hopefully next year, April next year, we will visit the United States for 2 to 3 weeks, and then go to maybe Ireland for about 90 days, which is the maximum visa I can get. And my wife will do an intensive, her English is already very good, but she's going to do an intensive English class to improve her English. And then we'll see, probably come back to Thailand at that point. So there's going to be a period of time when we're not in Asia. We're going to be in America and Europe. Very excited about that, but it's not definitely, yes, I have to make those plans and making plans for Japan. We're doing some things on our trip to Japan and so on. And there's some thought to, do we want to do maybe a long stint in Japan after this, where my wife does like a master's degree somewhere. Yes, I think Tesla will give up making cars with steering wheel soon. I agree with that. Has Tesla stated they want to run the Robotaxi network? They seem to talk more about selling them. I think it's very clear they're going to run the Robotaxi network. I mean, they said they're already running one. They're already running a pilot version of the Robotaxi network with employees in the Bay Area. So on the pod car, to get back to Mark's question, I am working on trying to hire Thai engineers are cheap. A Thai engineering graduate is going to make like $700 a month if they get a job. Some of them don't get jobs. So $700 a month, I could hire somebody at $700-800 a month and have them help me build design and build a prototype. And I have been working with someone, a fan, who has been helping me with the sort of like it's not quite engineering, but it's sort of like a cross between engineering and design. Like, I was thinking 12-inch wheels, which is common on the Japanese K cars, but I think we have to go to 10-inch wheels in order to leave room in the car for where the batteries are going to go. It's complicated, but I think 10-inch wheels are good enough. And actually 12-inch wheels seem like they would be too big for the vehicle, so 10-inch wheels are better. So hopefully by the end of this year, I will have hired 3 young Thai engineers and pay them each some amount of money to do CAD CAM designs, and then pick one and say, let's build a prototype. T-shirt, my wife is hotter than Tesla. T-shirt, Tesla's the next Tesla, elonbits.com. Tesla, you're looking for a 10x stock. Tesla's the best candidate for a 10x stock that I see on the market. And I don't look at other stocks that closely, so to be fair, I want a Tesla hot hatch. Yeah, I got a hot wife, you want a hot hatch. As an existing Hardware 3 customer, yes, I'm an existing Hardware 3 owner myself. Anyone mentioned whether the RoboVan fits in the boring tunnels? I think that question was asked. I don't think we got a clear answer. I think it's very likely that they will make a RoboVan that does fit in the boring tunnels. The one that they showed, maybe not, but they will make one that will. Cybertruck is a tight fit, right? So something in that ballpark should work. I don't think it has to be too big. I think you probably just have to make the roof lower and it'll fit. And I think there will be varying sizes of RoboVan, just like there are varying sizes of the Ford Transit and the Mercedes Sprinter vans. It's likely because that's that market. I don't think Model X was iffy in tunnels. Model X works in the tunnels. Cybertruck is wider than Model X, and Cybertruck works in the tunnels. Driving with, I wouldn't open the doors, maybe. Driving with a steering wheel may end up being a skill that disappears, much like the under 40 crowd in the US with manual transmissions. There was this back and forth Elon was talking about with whether there will be a steering wheel and pedal version of the Cybercab. And Elon was very clear that there won't be. And he talked about like a hybrid manual self-driving car, and he's like, there's no point. We're just going to make cars that drive themselves. Driving with a steering wheel may end up being a yes. But yeah, check out Elon Bits for the t-shirts. Tesla's the next Tesla and Air t-shirt. Lots of great stuff. Okay, so I got 15 minutes left. I'm just looking through here. The lower price Tesla means lower range. I think it's likely that if we talk about my vision for a shorter Model Y, you're probably talking about a smaller battery pack. You're probably going down to a 50. In Thailand, let's say, like the BYD Atto 3 is very popular. It doesn't have much range, and it actually has a very low charge rate as well, 88 kilowatts versus 250 for Teslas. So a 50 kilowatt hour battery pack Model Y would probably only have 150 kilowatt charging, but that's still basically double. So I do think you would probably see less range on a smaller Model Y, but then the extended Model Y would probably have more range. What was the most underappreciated or underappreciated part of the earnings call? I think the biggest, I don't know if underappreciated, I didn't hear a lot of people talking about it. The fact that they're already operating a Robotaxi network using their software. They have a Robotaxi network with a safety driver for employees only in the Bay Area. That was a shock to me. They are already testing out the network. They're already working on being the operator of a Robotaxi network. So I think that was probably the biggest one. And then the other big one for me was talk about Megapack. I have that. Megapack will soon scale. Tesla Energy or Megapack will soon scale to 100 gigawatt hours a year. I think they're $250 a kilowatt hour now. $250,000 a kilowatt hour. $250 a kilowatt hour. $250,000 a megawatt hour. $250 million a gigawatt hour times 100 gigawatt hours. That's $25 billion a year in revenue. Not bad. I mean, it's a $100 billion a year company right now in revenue. So adding 25 billion is pretty significant. But down the road, a terawatt hour, you're talking about $200 billion in revenue, which is double last year's revenue. Do I think Model 2 sold to the public will have a second row? I don't believe there's a Model 2, and there won't be a manual-driven Cybercab. So my prediction. I stand by my prediction, and I'm not saying 100%. We will see a smaller Model Y, and we will see a larger Model Y. Make the Model Y about a foot longer, 30 centimeters longer. Give it a legitimate third row. Give it extra cargo space to 2,600 liters. Maybe make it 2-3 centimeters, 1 inch wider. Maybe. I don't know if it's necessary to do that. Would sell like crazy in so many places. At $60,000, where Model X right now is $80,000. Game changer. Game changer. Overappreciated? What was overappreciated? I don't know what was overappreciated. Why doesn't Tesla just buy Uber? Uber is $150 billion market cap. It would cost you $200 billion to buy it. It doesn't make sense. Why not buy Lyft? Lyft is a $5 billion market cap. Why would you buy Uber when you could buy Lyft? I just don't get it. I don't know why people think that it makes... I don't understand why Uber is valued at 30 times or 50 times Lyft. 30 times Lyft. If Tesla wanted to buy a network that was already existing, that already had a great customer base, buy Lyft. Well, and I want to be clear, I do think that Uber and Lyft have something of value. It's understanding where customers like to be picked up, where customers like to be dropped off, and just having a list of customers. Being able to reach out to those customers. Imagine, I have the Grab app on my phone here, and I have the Uber and Lyft app on my phone at home. If I want to ride, I open the Lyft app, right? And the first choice is a Tesla Robotaxi. You just got access to, 100 million customers. There's a value there. Is it worth $7 billion to acquire Lyft? Maybe not, but there's a value there. So I didn't see anything that was overblown. And I didn't notice anything that happened. I mean, I guess you could look at James Catt. I think that energy margin 30% might be overblown because VibeHop said it's going to fluctuate. And I think it's going to be less than 30% next quarter. I think long-term path for energy margins is strong. But and it may get better, not worse. But we'll see. Do I think Elon will backtrack on no NACS for Cybercab? No, hell no. No, Cybercab. Let's talk about that point. So they're talking about inductive charging or wireless charging only for Cybercab. I think they save a lot of money on manufacturing cost. I think the cost of making a inductive charging setup on the charging side is much lower than supercharger. And it's much easier to locate it. It's much easier to put that in a parking garage. It's much easier to put that in a parking lot. I mean, I imagine just putting inductive charging pads in covered parking garages. How hard is that going to be to roll out? That's going to be easy. The electrical infrastructure is less. There's so many advantages to it. Yeah, COGS reduction will get better. They had a really long conversation. Maybe this is underappreciated about how hard it is to get cost out of a car. You got 10,000 parts, and each part costs $4. So you have a $40,000 car. Now you want to make a $35,000 car out of that. You got to get 50 cents in cost out of each of 10,000 parts, or you got to delete some parts. Very, very hard to do that. Very, very hard to do that. And I want to quickly thank Mark Potocznik, Mark Plott, and Jim Whitehead for moderating the chat, and longtime loyal viewers and participants. Really appreciate you. Yes, Mark Potachnik, I did see Crew 8 sitting in the water. I didn't catch the landing, but I saw it sitting in the water as they were cutting the parachute cords so they could, load it onto the boat. So thank you, Mark. Mark is always, keeping me apprised of what's happening with SpaceX on launches and activity. Very excited. Yeah, it's 100 launches this year, and we're only in October. We got 2 months to go. SpaceX is setting records. SpaceX is doing great things. Very excited about that. So no, I don't think it doesn't. So getting back to Mark Sparks's question, I don't think it makes sense to add a port to Cybercab. And this is another important detail. Cybercab's probably going to have a smaller battery pack, like 53 kilowatt hours is the best guess because that was in Master Plan 3. Some people think it's going to be 40 kilowatt hours. Your maximum charge rate on, let's say, a 40 kilowatt hour pack is 120 kilowatts. So there's no point in supercharging at a 250 kilowatt supercharger, which they're probably going to go faster than 250 kilowatts. With a 40 kilowatt hour pack, you're using a supercharger that you can't fully utilize it. So the inductive charging, I think they're looking at 25 kilowatts. My guess is they're going to get to 32 or 36 kilowatts. And, for Cybercab, it's not your car. You don't care. It's a robotaxi. So it's driving you where it wants to go. When it needs to charge, that's its problem, not your problem. And they charge at night when there's not a lot of demand. And all right, it takes an hour, hour and a half to charge, whatever. If you have enough chargers out there, not a problem. And, my guess is that the cost of a supercharger is around $45,000, $40,000 to $45,000, installed or whatever. When you install 8 of them, what is the cost of these inductive chargers going to be? $1,000 a piece, and easier to locate in many places. Find a parking structure in town that's not being used, right? Because the Cybercab can go anywhere to charge. So you find a relatively underutilized supercharge, parking garage, and at night, the downtown parking garages are empty. So put inductive chargers in parking garages in places, where it's not a problem, and you're good. Catch Cybercab with chopsticks. Yeah. And Cybercab, people are like, well, it won't be efficient. Well, Cybercab will park perfectly every time. So it will park exactly where it needs to park. Just like the monkey with the Neuralink is able to charge the Neuralink well, and Nolan Arbaugh is able to charge the Neuralink well. It will be fine. It will do really, really well. There is no Model 2. There never was a Model 2, and there's no manually driven Cybercab. There's no Cybercab with steering wheel and pedals. Interesting question is whether there will be a Cybertruck with the steering wheel on the other side for a place like Thailand. It's steer by wire, so it shouldn't be too hard to move the dry steering wheel over to the other side. The problem is keeping the inductive charge plates from melting due to heat. It may have to be cooled under the car. I think that if you're efficient, if you get to 96% efficiency, then you're not generating a lot of heat, Jim. I think that's the secret. If you're inefficient, then you're generating a lot of heat. But if you're efficient, and I think Wytherian was getting close to 95, or I know they said 93% at one point. I think some people may have achieved 96% efficiency. If you get to 96% efficiency, you're not generating heat. Thoughts on the new Scout vehicles? I saw images that Volkswagen has some sort of SUV and pickup truck that looks way too much like Rivian. But I didn't get specs. No, the Cybercab is not the Model 2 that was rumored. There were rumors about a Model 2. Tesla has told us for a long time a next generation vehicle is coming, and Cybercab is the next generation vehicle. Wireless energy devices. Yeah, we need something else. Yeah. Cybercar will charge itself. Yes. Operate with minimal human intervention. Yes. No human intervention. I'm not confident Cybercab form is the ideal of the purpose. It needs a slightly higher seat height for ease of entry. 14.4, interesting point. I didn't like the Cybercab form either, but I think we have to understand there's more purpose to Cybercab. First of all, people I talked to said it was easy to get into and get out of. I wasn't at the event, but people said it was easy to get in and easy to get out. It doesn't have to be super comfortable because most rides are going to be 5 miles. So maybe it wasn't as comfortable as you might want, but it's a robotaxi. It's not, your luxury vehicle. And then that big rear area, it's almost like pickup truck size. And I think if you're going to use Cybercab for the equivalent of Uber Eats for delivery services, that back area is very, very important. I picture, Optimus, 1 or 2 Optimuses in the vehicle, and the vehicle is loaded with packages, and it goes around make deliveries, and Optimus hops out for the last part of the delivery and delivers to the door. Model 2 was a false flag operation. Tesla never said there was a Model. They specifically said there is no Model 2. Do I think they will add inductive chargers to Tesla supercharger spots? No, I don't. I think they're going to locate inductive charging somewhere else. I don't think that the locations for superchargers for humans coincide with the locations for robotaxis. I'm not saying they won't put any, but I don't think that's a priority. Waymo exec said the law requires a steering wheel that anyone sitting in the driver's side is legally a driver in an accident. Well, fortunately, Waymo's not in charge. Is the Cybercab stamped aluminum? We didn't really get that. There's some people who think it's not even going to be painted. It's like injection molded, and I don't think that's the case. I think it will be painted stamped aluminum. I'm not sure about that. Tesla bot can dock and charge automatically on the butt. Yeah, the charge port on Optimus on the butt. I love that. Cleaning thing of the 1010 event. Why not just have Optimus clean the cars? So I think the answer is that there is a value in specialized robots for high volume activities. There's a value in a generalized robot capable to do a variety of things and capable to learn a variety of things. But you have a very specific task. It makes sense to have a very specialized robot for that task. And then you could do manufacturing in the factory. You have specialized robots that do a high volume of the same task over and over again. So that's why. 4% of 30 kilowatts would be 1,200 watts, which cause a max heat loss of 4,100 BTUs. And I think that heat loss would be easy to dissipate in the air. I don't know. I'm like, maybe they just put a fan on it. I don't know. There's every chance a robotaxi required to adhere to the 80A, and maybe a way the government stops it. Yeah, you can be guaranteed the greatest threat to this kind of improvement is the government, 100%. But Model X fills in the role for handicapped accessible. What other vehicle is Waymo handicap accessible in some way that Cybercab isn't? E-Roven in my shopping cart. Jupiter Cybercab prototype was carbon fiber. Production won't be. Thank you, Mark Plot. I believe you. I don't know for sure, but I believe you. They can adopt the Aptera. They're not adopting Aptera. Elon always said full autonomy is extremely valuable. How come Tesla plans to sell the Cybercabs for 30K? Yeah, that's my question as well, Jupiter James. I find that very suspicious. Okay, so I'm gonna have to wrap up because I'm gonna be doing a video with Herbert, Tesla Herbert shortly. So I want to thank everybody, especially thank our moderators, Mark Patochnik, Mark Plot, and Jim Whitehead. Thank you all for watching. Please check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. Tesla is the next Tesla. Lots of other t-shirts, Tesla and Air, and so on. Elon is a threat to idiocracy, all kinds of great stuff. So thanks everybody so much for watching. We'll see you again soon. And like I said, early November, first half of November, I'm probably not going to be posting a whole lot of videos. So thanks everybody so much.